Paul McCartney has admitted something fascinating. Even today, he still doesn't know where Yesterday came from. The song just appeared, fully formed, almost like it was given to him. And for most people, that alone would be proof of genius. But for George Martin, the man who worked closer with Paul than almost anyone, that wasn't the song that proved it. George Martin didn't just produce the Beatles. He spent decades in the studio with Paul McCartney, watching him grow from a talented young songwriter into a complete composer. Martin saw hundreds of McCartney songs come to life. Effortless melodies. Clever arrangements. Hooks that the entire world could sing. He knew Paul was extraordinary. But there was one song that made him stop and think, this is something else. Not talent. Not skill. Genius. In the mid-1960s, the world saw Paul as the melody guy, the cute Beatle, the hitmaker who made pop music look easy. His songs dominated the radio. His bass lines drove the band. His voice carried the harmonies. But critics weren't always kind. Many thought Paul was too safe, too polished, especially compared to John Lennon's raw edge. Beautiful melodies, they said, but simple ones. George Martin knew how wrong that was. When Yesterday was recorded in 1965, Martin sat beside Paul in the studio and watched him work. He saw the chord choices, the harmonic thinking, the precision behind those simple melodies. Martin understood something most critics missed: making sophistication sound simple is far harder than making complexity sound impressive. True genius hides the work. Still, even Martin needed one song to fully confirm what he suspected. That song came in 1966, Here, There, and Everywhere. At first, it sounds like a gentle love song. Soft, intimate, almost fragile. The kind of song that feels like Paul is singing directly to you. But George Martin immediately heard what was really happening. This wasn't just pretty. This was compositional perfection. The song doesn't even start where pop songs are supposed to start. It opens on a G major chord, even though the song is in B-flat major, a classical technique that most pop writers would never touch. The harmonies drift through subtle key changes, moving between major and minor with effortless grace. Nothing sounds clever or showy. Every choice serves the emotion. The structure avoids the usual verse-chorus formula. Instead, it unfolds naturally, like a classical art song. The melody breathes with the lyrics. The harmonies, stacked by Paul, John, and George, are so perfectly blended that even trained musicians struggle to separate the voices. George Martin barely touched it in production. When you hear something perfect, you don't decorate it. You capture it. Martin compared the song to Gershwin, Cole Porter, even Schubert, composers who made deep sophistication feel completely natural. And what stunned him most was Paul's age. He was only 24. Most composers spend a lifetime learning how to balance complexity with emotion. Paul seemed to arrive there instinctively. After Here, There, and Everywhere, George Martin no longer saw Paul as just the Beatles' melody man. He saw him as a musical architect, someone thinking harmonically the way classical composers think, but expressing it through pop music. Paul's genius wasn't despite his accessibility. It was because of it. George Martin worked with countless great artists, but when he spoke about proof of genius, he always came back to this song. Not Yesterday. Not Let It Be. This quiet, perfect composition showed Paul McCartney operating on a level few composers ever reach. True genius doesn't need to shout. It just feels inevitable.